Okay, we're reading. This is a book called "The Universe is Calling" by Eric Butterworth, and so I was reading it, and so I'm gonna start here. And we'll just read part of chapter 7 and see what he has to say. So, the way of silence. As we have said, getting a new insight in scientific prayer calls for unlearning many attitudes and practices that we have become conditioned to over many years. These changes do not come easily. We are faced with the need to perceive a larger thought of God, which may be as difficult as the mental adjustment required of the people of Columbus' day after he had proved the world to be round. It was actually several hundred years before people could see a sunrise or sunset without perceiving a flat world. And today we can never take for granted that we have disposed of the God out there perception and totally established ourselves in the presence. So to repeat, prayer is not trying to reach for God, not even to reach God. It is giving up the very desire to reach. We have talked about praying to God, sending our appeal to the man upstairs. In this context, our prayer is a performance that we put on for his eyes and ears. Yeah, and that's what we were just talking about a while ago. And trying to get into our mind or get out of our mind the the perception of God out there and totally establish ourselves in the presence. So that, yeah, that's until we get that in our consciousness, we're going to feel alienated. And many people talk about a God-sized hole in our heart, but that's really not true. There are no God is not absent ever. We have a mind, we have a mentality of being absent, but we are the ones who went out in the far country. So yeah, prayer, thinking of prayer, we think of I grew up, we just read our prayers out of a book. And so there was never a true connection, a feeling of connection, actually. It was just something we did because we were told to do it, not because not because of hoping to establish a connection. Well, I mean it was, but it was more of a just as an obedient act to God. Do you want to read, Gunham?
Yeah, sure. So, the religious student of the Western world has been strongly conditioned to religious dualism and perception of God and humanity. Thus, we Westerners have found it extremely difficult to understand the Oriental concept of monism, the awareness of one basic monism, the awareness of one basic spirit, one mind, one life substance. Thus, though in recent times there has been widespread interest in the Eastern practice of meditation, in most cases it has been taken out of the context of the oneness of God and humanity. The emphasis has been instead upon consciousness expansion, upon relaxation, response. These are extremely helpful states, but they can never lead a person to true self awareness. This can only come through practicing the presence or the realization of oneness with the ever present divine flow. The word meditation conjures up the image of a scantily clad guru sitting legged on a chaise, perhaps holding a bouquet of flowers in his hands. It is not surprising that most clergymen reject meditation as a heretical practice because it has come from what they refer to as pagan religions of the East. obviously it means with resistance because it meets with resistance because it turns a person away from dependence on dogma, ritual, and clergy intermediaries. Thus, it is a threat to the religious establishment. Should I stop there?
Yes. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
Do you want to go back a bit for me, please? Mm. So again, it's coming down to the depth of awareness, they say. And prayer is really not asking, but being and focusing and going into yourself and understanding the silence. And they're comparing the Westerners to religion and all of that. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is just to be in awareness.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Um, I think, or I didn't hear you read this first paragraph. I think you skipped that one, but that's
Oh, sorry, yeah.
it is pretty powerful. However, if we can just get the perspective of the presence, then God is not someone to pray to, but a depth of awareness and energy to pray from. Thus, a vital step in prayer is focusing on that depth.
Mm,
So that's a new thought to me. Is not you're not praying to something, you're praying
mm,
from the presence, from the awareness. Yeah, and I can understand, like for the culture I come from is uh this here part where he says the word meditation conjures up the image of a scantily clad guru sitting cross-legged on a chase. It's yeah, our culture would definitely, reject anything like that. And so anything that that person does would be rejected. So yeah, uh, but meditation is just simply uh, going within and feeling the presence, I think.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Do you have anything you want to share, Ms. Warson?
mm.
Or-
Please go ahead.
Okay. Um, However, the inward art, as Bradford called meditation, is an emphasis on turning within, touching the depth of your inner self, the point where God is manifesting as you. It is a vital step in prayer that has its root for the Western seeker in Jesus' call to enter into thine inner chamber, and having shut the door, pray to the Father in secret. Matthew 6:6. It is the absence of this meditation process that has been the missing key to power in the whole Judeo-Christian concept of prayer. Thus, the prayer of institutional religion has deteriorated into a performance of words, form, and ritual with little or no real communion, no silence, no listening. We are suggesting three basic steps or stages in the process of scientific prayer. One, relax and let go. Two, turn inward to become one with the secret power. Three, project this power with an affirmation or treatment. This last step will be dealt with in the next chapter. Um, I want to comment on that one. Says the prayer of institutional religion has deteriorated the performance of words, form, and ritual, with little or no real communion. Our concept of communion, where I grew up, was simply they called the bread and wine was called communion. Uh, but communion means to communicate, to be in or in. in harmony with, and you're uh, you're in communion with it. You're in agreement. And then uh, I want to comment on number 2 here. Turn inward to become one with the secret power. And the secret power is, there's many people who would also comment on that and, oh, so you think you have a secret? Well, yes, I do, but it's not one that's specific to me. It's not, you can know it too. Everyone can know it, but we must pursue it. We must chase after it, or in a sense, we have to seek it. Like Jesus said, seek the kingdom. There's to seek means to discover, to, you know, to find out how does this operate? What is this all about? And so it's never, it's never withheld from anyone who dares to seek. It's only when you don't seek that you don't find.
Mm.
You have you want to share some thoughts on that, or you want to go ahead and read, whichever.
We can go ahead and read. I'm happy with
Yeah.
what you've discussed.
Okay.
Imagine, if you will, a 19th century fire department. Firefighting often consisted of forming bucket brigades between a source of water and the fire. Buckets of water would be filled from a well or stream and passed on by means of a human chain, with the last person in the chain throwing the buckets of water onto the fire. It was a crude but often effective system. But just imagine the buckets being passed on through the human chain without having first been dipped in the water. How foolish the last person would feel as they threw their buckets of nothing onto the fire. And so it is with prayer, that consists of rattling of words without taking time to touch the inner well being of living water. Wow, such a great analogy.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I did read this chapter because I remember reading this. So I'm not sure why it opened up on a different page, but yeah, that's a powerful analogy.
Mm,
Oh, and it might take some time to really get the depth of it, but yeah,
yeah, I think he explained it so clearly, so that that analogy, that we can also look at it in that way. I mean, an empty bucket. Because also when we sit down to meditate, and if we don't relax and let go, then our mind continues to wander. Even though you bring it back, you're still not in peace. So if you relax and let go and be completely in peace, then you
yes.
feel you've done something. Mm,
And and this wellspring of living water, Jesus actually talked about that with the woman at the well. Uh, he said, "The water that I give you will be I forget now exactly how it's worded, but it talks about will be a wellspring of water." And he says, "You will never thirst when you drink of this water." So um, it's a wellspring of living water with coming from within ourselves. It's not something that's coming
mm,
from outside of us. It's coming from within us, because that is actually where the source. Uh, because we're told, or the Christian concept is to accept Christ, and they talk about God being in us. They talk about the Holy Spirit being in us, and they talk about Jesus being in us. So if this is all, if that's all within us, then we have to go within ourselves to find it. not
Mm.
not the God out there. Okay, I will stop the recording.